Hello viewers and welcome to the show on Lifestyle Show. You're with me, Cathrine Ngovi, and that is my sign name. We want to welcome our visitor. As you can see, she will tell us her name.
Hello everyone, my name is Omondi. Yeah, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to your show.
Nice, thank you so much. So, how did you arrive here at Science TV? You've seen, how have you still found the place?
Okay, actually I hadn't even heard of Science TV for the first time. The first time I encountered with Science TV was last year around November. There was an event at Kenya Cinema. Yeah, so the Science TV was represented there, and at that time I was in kids college studying sign language. Yeah, so that was the first time I encountered I knew Science TV. Before then we were still in school. So after we were done with school, then we had to look for attachment. So then it came to my mind, I had an encounter with Science TV, so I decided to search for that place, then come and do my attachment here.
Wow, that's very interesting. So what's your reason for studying sign language?
Thank you, that's a very good question. And this is something I would say I started maybe from when I was young, that I wanted to learn sign language. I won't say that because I did journalism in multimedia university. That was my first course. Then after that is when now I enrolled for sign language. And I can say one of the things that inspired me to learn sign language is because after I finished my course, then we had a family meeting. So like there's that family meeting, you meet those cousins you have never met. Then one was a bit isolated, so it occurred that she was deaf. So I felt like, okay, and me doing journalism, then on TV you see that small screen, somebody interpreting, and you're like, why is this person here? So that one motivated me to go study Kenya Sign Language, so that I could include my cousin, like when we are in a gathering, she doesn't have to feel left outside, you know. So like maybe if she has even one person speaking to her, I mean that would be great, because like in the family nobody knew sign language. So I was like, this can be a good opportunity for me to, you know, show these people, in as much as like they, you know, there's how a society also views the deaf. So I was like, maybe if I interact with her, they'd see like this person is, you know, she has more than what they just see on the surface.
Wow, that's interesting. So when you saw your cousin seated alone, isolated, how did that make you feel?
Yeah, actually I felt, okay, before encountering her, before coming together, I had an idea of sign language. I was like, I want to do this thing. Then me meeting her, that one now pushed it further, you know, because me interacting with the deaf now, at first I didn't know anything about the deaf. I was like, deaf? Like now when I met them, I'm like, okay, so it's just normal. It's like you're a Kikuyu, I'm a Luo. So like the difference between us is just the language. So I was like, she can be included. I mean, language, if I can learn that language, then we are the same. There's nothing different. So like my main aim was just inclusivity, not only her, but even to other people. Like when you walk in the street and you meet a deaf person, you communicate. It's very interesting, you know. Yeah.
That's very nice. I'm very excited to see you learning sign language. And in future, I'm sure you will be able now to help your cousin. Now, something about yourself. Please tell us about how you grew up, how was life?
Okay, so in our family we are 5 kids. Then and growing up, I'd say we are in the, I'd say, middle, like, you know, there's rich, poor, then there's the middle. So I'd say we were middle class. Yeah, and my father was a teacher, my mom is a business woman. Then when I was in Form 1, my dad passed away. Then so far I feel like our family is is a good one. Yeah, you know, not all are good, but I feel like my family is a good one because the uncles that were left there have like supported us to where we are now, and it's a good thing and we appreciate.
Okay. So there's something I need to understand. Your life, what do you love most about your life? Is it all glam and good, or maybe what do you like in your life personally? What are you most interested in? Sports?
Okay, in my life, I'm mostly interested in entertainment. Like, my main aim of studying journalism was maybe I could be in a radio, you know, have a show, talk about, like, you know, people's lifestyle, music. Like, I'd say my hobby is listening to music. Dance kidogo, I'm not good at, because when you tell somebody you love music, they expect you to, like, maybe you know how to dance, but for me, I'll be taking the lessons soon. Yeah, but I really love music, and yeah, life, just entertain. You know, life is also short, so like you don't have to be sad all the time. You need to enjoy a little bit of it, yeah, in a responsible way.
Well, thank you. That's another question now. Now here, after you're doing right now, you're currently in attachment. Now, after you're done with that, what's your aim after that?
Okay, actually my aim being here is to, like, you know, be closer with the deaf, like learn. I want to be like, okay, I'd say perfect, but that is what I want to be. And, you know, maybe after, you know, when you come here, you learn, then maybe you go back to the village, to the society. There are also deaf there. So one of the main aim after is that after learning about the deaf culture, now when you go back to the society, you know, you have to eliminate, you have to, like, teach those people, or just tell them that these people, like, you know, back in the village, like, some of them do not even get quality education because they feel like they don't have that enlightenment. They're not educated, like, they don't know. Maybe a parent has a deaf kid or any other disability, but so I feel like me coming here, interacting with deaf who are even working, very smart, you know, that is something that gives you, like, encouragement, so that when you go back, after you've seen what is back there, you have to now educate those people and tell them, you know, I have a friend who is a journalist and she's deaf. So it doesn't mean that only me who is hearing, who can speak, it's only me who can do that work. There are other opportunities for them. And also, and it's all about educating the society and, you know, working together and making the future more brighter. Yeah.
Well, that's very good and encouraging. I'm happy to see the motivation that you have to learn sign language and to learn about the deaf culture. So that I hope that moving on, you will be perfect in sign language and become perfect interpreters.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Yeah.
Welcome back, our dear viewers. Now, before, in our first segment, we discussed about Laura's life, how she grew up, her family, and now to the second installment, we are going to continue with the same chain of thought. Now, in your culture, Laura, please, explain to us how they view disability in general.
Okay, thank you. That's a good question. Like, in every community or every culture, there are different ways on how they deal with the persons with disability. And in our culture, I'd say like for now, or maybe if I compare like from now and how in the past they used to handle persons with disability, I feel like there's a bit of difference, because in the past, persons with disability they were viewed in a certain way. Like maybe if somebody gave birth to a child with disability, maybe they'd even be embarrassed to show the child to the public, or the community would view that as a curse. But as times have come, I feel like they have been educated, and some really understand that having a person with disability, you have to look at the person first before you consider the disability, because these people can also achieve greatness here in future if they are given the right direction, the right education, because there are many schools for persons with disability. And also we can't blame them, because we find that some parents do not even know how they can handle those persons with disability. Maybe a parent has never had that. If you have a deaf child, there are schools for the deaf. So I think like for now the society is well, a bit, not all, though I won't say all, but a majority of them are well versed with how to handle persons with disability and how to take care of them. Like the myths of the past, I think they are coming to fade away, and they're just viewing life normally like it should be.
Wow, thank you. So before, in your culture, as you said before, in the past, maybe people in your culture didn't know how to, care for the deaf, and how has that transitioned up to the current moment right now?
So like, for example, let me say myself coming out to go and learn sign language, so people are like, I feel like it was kind of unique, because they were like, so how are you going to communicate with that person? But now, when I come out and, they see like, and when I go back and I show them that these things are possible, these people are just, different is just the language. So I think that one also makes them feel like, these things, we should not be like hindering ourselves from giving these kids the future that is there. It's us who are hiding behind it, like we don't know. But as long as they get the education, the knowledge, now they come out and implement it on their kids, and they get rid of the shame that having a person with disability is a curse or what. So like they come out strongly, and then the social media also, you see TikTok, you see those persons with disability, like they just act normally, and that is something that also encourages them to like put them in the open, that because these people also, they have dreams, they have ambitions, so like they only need the platform to be given to them. So maybe a parent, your kid maybe wants to be something in future, but for you are looking like, no, you are a person with disability, you should just stay at home. Like, how are you going to do this? So like, when you give them that platform and they prove to you that, we can do this. So I feel like for now the society has really been, it's not like the past. For now I think it's on the good track on how to handle persons with disability.
Thank you. I hope you continue learning about different cultures of persons with disability, and I hope you are able to pass that on to others as well. Now, moving on, how do you think the government can, help us as persons with disabilities and drive the inclusion drive?
Actually, I feel like the government has tried, because I would say like the government hasn't done anything. I feel like it has tried, but in as much as it has tried, there was more to be done. because like for now, where, for example, sign language, that is where I've specialized, so I'll speak on that perspective. Like for now, like most every office, like maybe you go to the court. I heard it somewhere that they're going to recruit like interpreters in different, like every institution, because I would say maybe like school only, because you know the deaf also, there is somebody wants to become a doctor, yani different occupation. So like I feel like all offices should be having interpreters. Then also there are also schools. Maybe they just need to be added more schools, even in the rurals, because I feel like when you go back to the village, maybe you'll find a school for the deaf, maybe it will be far. So I feel like the school should be built like normally, maybe in a village we have a school for the deaf. It hasn't to be like in a far place where, you know. Then also like financial support for these people. Yeah, I think that one also encourages them, like, you know, we are included. You know, that inclusion is very important, where you feel like, in as much as the difference is only, but I feel like for the deaf, I feel like they're just normal people, because it's like a Kisi and a Kikuyu meeting. So like difference is just the language. So if I learn Kisi, we will just speak we will speak normally. So I feel like the government should like also provide more offices for interpreters, more opportunities for interpreters, and also the government can also educate, like provide platforms to educate the society about these persons with disabilities, so that, you know, the society can have a different view from what they have. Like education is very important. Like I'd say for me, before coming to learn deaf culture, I wouldn't understand, like I'd meet you and I would not know you are a deaf person, because I'd see like you're just a normal person. Or maybe I start talking to you, then you're not responding, and I'm like, you have pride, why are you not responding? So like I feel like education is very important. Yeah.
Thank you, that's very interesting, and I hope you continue with the same spirit as well, and I hope the government adapts what you say. Now, in your life, have you had any challenges in the past?
Yeah, of course. There's not a smooth road. It has to be rough at some point. Yeah, so growing up, the challenges I'd give on perspective, on the context of learning sign language, because at first I was scared. I was like, how do I even start conversation with these people? Because I feel like when you go to class, you know, you learn that sign language, then you meet somebody. So one of the challenges is variations in signs. Like me, I'm here confident with my sign, then I reach there, this person is saying a different one. Okay, but I think it's a minor challenge, because we are also learning on the way. Because even English, there are some words, you know, you don't know perfectly. You have to learn new words as time goes. Then there are a lot of challenges in terms of even financial, you know. Life is also hard at the moment, so like finding a job. I'd speak on behalf as a youth. I feel like life is hard, so that is one of the biggest challenges so far, because in as much as you want to acquire these skills, you have to have finance. So like you have to fund yourself so that you can learn like in the schools they are not provide. And onto the question you asked earlier, I'd even say like the government should even include like I'd say free education for persons with disability. Yeah, and also because like that education, I feel like maybe somebody is born in a poor family and the person is a person with disability. So maybe the parents will not have the funds to, you know, sponsor this person to maybe achieve their dreams. So I feel like for persons with disability, the government should give like free education for them. Yeah, and also challenges are a lot. I wouldn't mention all of them, but I'd say in terms of looking for maybe job opportunities, because you know when you're a youth, you also have expectation. You feel like I need to learn, then I finish, then you know get a job. You know, like in the primary when you are being told, you know, work hard, then finish, then get a job. You know, buy a car, buy a house. But you know, when now it comes out, the reality hits you, you find that there's more to be done than just, you know, working hard. Yeah, but all in all, we are still working hard, you know, there's no stopping.
Wow, very interesting. Now, how is sign language, how have you found sign language to be different from, you know, the other languages that you know?
I feel like, okay, it's different because in sign language you're using visual, like body movement, you know, facial expressions, and then like you're just using signs, there's no voice. So like the difference, I feel like, okay, it's like a silent communication, like I'd be just moving my hand and body and my facial expression and we are communicating. But you know, in other languages, you know, I have to speak, you know, shout. So I feel that is the main difference, the fact that the sign language we use signs, that is the visual, the facial expression and the, you know, the non-verbal clues. So I think that's the main difference. And again, when you're speaking in sign language and maybe somebody that doesn't understand sees you, you know, they'd be like, what is this one doing? Is she or he crazy? Because I had that challenge the first time I was working with a friend. Then I had a friend who was deaf, who was selling shoes. So I was like, I have a friend here, you can, you know, he's deaf, but you know, you will just say hello like this. Then now we were signing and she was like, what is that? And I was like, you haven't seen this, like you haven't seen somebody talking in signs? So like at first she wasn't understanding, she was like, but I also saw this person very normal, like how is he or she deaf? So you know, I think explaining to people, like when you have a friend who is hearing, then you are walking, then you have a friend who is deaf. So for you explaining to them is very hard. They see that person normally, but you know, it's only you who understand that this person is deaf. This is how I should communicate to them, you know. So I think the difference is just the use of signs, but this one we are talking, you know. And I feel like the difference is also very unique because like I was watching a certain TikTok and they were saying difference between a hearing person and, you know, a deaf person. So like if I have to talk to you from a distance, then I have to shout. But if you are deaf and we can communicate in signs, you know, we will just sign it. It's simple and it's visible. No, we won't be making even noise around. So I feel like it is a special language and I really love it, and I'd even ask a lot of people to consider it because it's something like, you know, it's special. Yeah.
Wow, I'm very excited to see how much passion you have for sign language. Now, could you please advise other people who are aspiring to be interpreters or others who are learning sign language? What should they do?
Okay, any person who is learning sign language, okay, you know, at the moment, I feel like people are learning sign language in the context that you know, in as much as people are learning different things, but they are also considering, you know, market, you know, this one is marketable. So I feel like, but then another thing, you know, sign language will also distinguish the marketing term, because it's not like you will take your CV, you know, and just give it, say, me, I know this. You know, this one you have to prove, like, how are you doing this thing to show that you know it. So I think I'll advise maybe an interpreter or somebody who wants to study sign language or even learn, you know, you can even learn them online. I feel like you just try. Have like, you know, there's this thing they say, passion. I think if you love something and you feel like you want to do it, you learn it faster, and like you'll enjoy doing it, you know, other than just going to do it, you know, for the sake of let me just add this one, I also did this one, so when I take my paper there, they'll see. So I feel like there are lots of courses, so if you feel like you want to learn, and this is I'd say it's also an amazing thing to do, because, you know, I feel like sometimes I feel good that I can speak to a deaf person. I'm like, you know, I'm a different person as well. I feel special as well, because like I have a unique language that I know, in as much as other people know French and those other languages, but I feel like, and the fact that it also has a difference in, like, American sign language is different from the Kenyan or even another country. That is another thing that makes it more special. And I feel like I'd advocate for people to even learn it, so that, because these people are in our daily lives, I think it should just be like, okay, for the curriculum that has added it, I think it's a good thing, so that I think this one will bring more inclusivity, and I feel like everybody should just learn sign language. It should not be even like, it's just like how you learn Kiswahili growing up. I think people should even just start learning it growing up, like, you know, how you start talking to a kid in English, like, you know, do this, do that. I think I'd say even sign language, it would just start from, if you have a kid, like, apart from just English, Kiswahili, you'd even add sign language there, you know, start teaching as they grow. Yeah, so, but I'd also advise them, you know, it is a good course, or it is a good language. It is a nice one, a special language, so feel free to learn, so that when you meet a deaf in the street, you just don't have to pass like, oh, this one is deaf, let me go, you know, so at least you can say hello, even the simple ones. Yeah.
That's interesting. Please, do you have any final words for our viewers as we close the show?